July 24, 1945, 7:47 p.m., Sicilienhof Palace, Potsdam, Germany. Harry Truman walks across the conference room toward Joseph Stalin with a secret that could end the war in 48 hours. Churchill watches from 20 feet away, cigarette burning between his fingers. The British Prime Minister wants to see the moment when Stalin learns that America has become a god. Truman reaches Stalin's side and speaks casually through the interpreter. "We have developed a new weapon of unusual destructive power. We plan to use it against Japan soon." Stalin nods. His face shows nothing. No surprise, no curiosity, no fear. He says he hopes America makes good use of it. Then he turns and walks away. No questions. The conversation lasts 25 seconds. Churchill stares in disbelief. He expected shock, demands for details, recognition that the world just changed. Instead, Stalin acted like Truman mentioned new radio equipment. Churchill approaches Truman immediately. He did not react at all. Do you think he understood? Truman is equally puzzled. He just told the Soviet dictator that America possesses a weapon that can erase cities from existence. And Stalin responded like he was discussing the weather. Maybe the interpreter failed to convey it properly. Maybe Stalin did not grasp the significance. Or maybe Stalin is the best poker player Truman has ever faced. The truth is worse than either man imagines. Stalin understood perfectly, because Stalin has known about the American atomic bomb for 799 days. Soviet spies have been inside the Manhattan Project since 1943. Every major breakthrough, every test result, every technical specification has been photographed, copied, and sent to Moscow. When Truman told Stalin about the new weapon, Stalin was not learning a secret. He was watching America reveal how badly their security had failed. 3 months earlier, April 12, 1945. Franklin Roosevelt dies of a cerebral hemorrhage at Warm Springs, Georgia. Harry Truman is in the Capitol building having a bourbon with House Speaker Sam Rayburn when he gets the call. "Come to the White House immediately." He arrives at 5:25 p.m. Eleanor Roosevelt puts her hand on his shoulder. "Harry, the president is dead." Truman stood there in shock. He was vice president for 82 days. Roosevelt never briefed him on anything significant. They met privately exactly twice. Truman knows nothing about military strategy, nothing about diplomatic agreements with Churchill and Stalin, nothing about the dozens of secret programs Roosevelt launched. He is about to become President of the United States in the middle of the largest war in human history, and he is completely unprepared. The next morning, April 13th, Truman holds his first cabinet meeting as president. Secretary of War Henry Stimson approaches him afterward. "Mr. President, there is an urgent matter I need to discuss with you. Not here. We need privacy." 12 days later, April 25th, Stimson finally briefs Truman alone in the Oval Office. "Mr. President, we are developing a weapon of almost unbelievable, destructive power. A single bomb that can destroy an entire city. We have spent $2 billion on this project. We employ 130,000 people across multiple secret facilities. The first test will happen in approximately 2 months." Truman sits in Roosevelt's chair trying to process this. $2 billion, more than the entire federal budget in some years before the war. A secret program employing more workers than live in most American cities. And the vice president knew nothing. Roosevelt created an entire hidden world, and Truman just inherited it without a manual. "How does it work?" Truman asks. Stimson explains nuclear fission as simply as he can. Splitting uranium or plutonium atoms releases massive energy. Chain reaction. The scientists believe one bomb will have the explosive force of 20,000 tons of TNT. Maybe more. They have never tested it. They are not completely sure it will work. If it works, how many do we have? Stimson pauses. Mr. President, we will have 2 bombs ready by early August. 1 plutonium implosion device, 1 uranium gun-type device. After that, production will take months. We might have 3 or 4 more by November. Maybe. Truman understands immediately. 2 bombs. If Japan does not surrender after 2 atomic attacks, America has nothing left but invasion. The Manhattan Project is not an unlimited arsenal. It is a gamble with exactly 2 bullets in the chamber. What are the alternatives? Truman asks. Stimson lays out the invasion plan. Operation Downfall. 2 phases. Operation Olympic in November 1945, landing on Kyushu. Operation Coronet in March 1946, landing near Tokyo. The Joint Chiefs estimate American casualties between 500,000 and 1 million dead and wounded. Japanese casualties will be far higher. Millions of civilians will die as American forces fight through every city, every town, every village. Japan has mobilized its entire population for defense. Women and children are training with bamboo spears. Truman looks at the casualty projections and feels sick. 500,000 American mothers will receive telegrams saying their sons died invading Japan. How many of those deaths can be prevented if 1 bomb destroys a city and shocks Japan into surrender? But Stimson explains another factor: the Soviets. Stalin promised at Yalta to declare war on Japan 3 months after Germany surrenders. Germany surrendered May 8th. That means Stalin will attack Japan in early August. If Soviet armies invade Manchuria and Korea before Japan surrenders, Stalin will demand territorial concessions and occupation zones. Japan will be divided like Germany. Soviet troops will occupy Japanese territory for decades, unless America ends the war first. The atomic bomb gives Truman a way to force Japanese surrender before Soviet forces get involved. No division of Japan. No Soviet occupation. No communist government in Tokyo. The bomb is not just a military weapon. It is a diplomatic weapon to keep Stalin out of the Pacific. Truman authorizes continued development. The test will happen in New Mexico in mid-July. If successful, the bombs will be used against Japan as soon as ready. No demonstration strike, no warning. Maximum shock to force immediate surrender. July 16, 1945, 5:29 a.m. Jornada del Muerto Desert, New Mexico. Scientists at the Trinity test site crouch behind barricades 10,000 yards from ground zero. Oppenheimer chains smokes cigarettes. His hands shake. 2 years of theoretical work are about to be proven right or catastrophically wrong. If the bomb fails, the Manhattan Project is exposed as a $2 billion failure. If it works, Oppenheimer has created a weapon that makes all previous wars look like minor skirmishes. The countdown reaches 0. For 1 millisecond, nothing happens. Then the desert turns into the sun. Light brighter than anything on Earth erupts from the test tower. The fireball expands to 2,000 feet in diameter within seconds. Heat radiates outward. Sand melts into glass. The shockwave arrives 40 seconds later, slamming into the observation bunkers with enough force to knock men off their feet. The mushroom cloud rises 7 miles into the stratosphere. Oppenheimer watches it climb and remembers the Bhagavad Gita. Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds. Kenneth Bainbridge, the test director, turns to Oppenheimer and says something more direct. Now we are all sons of bitches. The yield is estimated at 22 kilotons, equivalent to 22,000 tons of TNT. 1 bomb, 1 flash, and the world just changed. 12 hours later, a coded message reaches Truman in Potsdam. Babies satisfactorily born. Truman reads it twice before understanding. The bomb works. America now possesses a functional weapon that can destroy cities without invasion, without warning, without mercy. Truman tells Churchill immediately in a private meeting. The Prime Minister's reaction is pure relief, mixed with awe. This changes everything. You do not need Stalin anymore. You can end the war without Soviet help, without giving him what he wants in Eastern Europe. But Churchill also understands what this means for Britain. America has atomic weapons. Britain does not. The empire that ruled a quarter of the world is now a secondary power. Churchill fought 6 years to save Britain from Germany. He succeeded. But he could not save Britain from irrelevance. The future belongs to America and the Soviet Union. Everyone else is just watching. Truman considers not telling Stalin anything. Let him find out when Hiroshima burns. But Secretary of State James Burns argues they should mention it vaguely, signal that America has something new without revealing how devastating it is. Test Stalin's reaction. Which brings Truman to this moment. July 24th, walking across the conference room, about to tell Stalin a secret that Stalin already knows. What Truman does not know is that Klaus Fuchs has been passing atomic secrets to the Soviets since 1943. Fuchs is a German communist who fled the Nazis and joined the British atomic program. He was sent to Los Alamos in 1944 as part of the British scientific team. He had access to nearly every aspect of bomb design, and he gave it all to Soviet intelligence. Fuchs met his NKVD handler, Harry Gold, in Cambridge, Massachusetts in February 1945. He handed over a detailed report on the plutonium implosion design. In June 1945, Fuchs provided the exact specifications for the Trinity test. Moscow knew the test date, the location, the expected yield. Soviet scientists received American atomic secrets faster than some American officials. On July 17th, the day after Trinity, an NKVD report reached Stalin's desk in Potsdam. The American atomic test succeeded. Yield approximately 20 kilotons. Device used plutonium implosion design. Americans plan to use 2 bombs against Japan in early August. Estimated production rate is 3 to 4 additional devices by end of year. Stalin read the report with no visible emotion. Then he summoned Lavrenti Beria, head of the NKVD and supervisor of the Soviet atomic program. How long until we have our own bomb? Beria had prepared for this question. With continued intelligence from American sources, 4 to 5 years. With maximum resource allocation and using everything we have stolen, 3 years. Maybe less. Stalin's response was cold. You have 3 years. Spare no expense. Use whatever methods necessary. If you fail, you will be shot. Beria understood. The Soviet Union must develop atomic weapons before America realizes its monopoly can be used for political leverage. 3 years. 36 months. That is how long the Soviet Union has to catch up or become permanently subordinate to American power. So when Truman tells Stalin about the new weapon on July 24th, Stalin already knows. He knows the design. He knows the yield. He knows America only has 2 bombs ready. And Stalin knows something Truman does not. Soviet spies are still inside Los Alamos. Every improvement, every new bomb, every technical advance will be reported to Moscow within weeks. Stalin walks away from Truman without questions, because asking questions would reveal that he already has answers. Better to appear uninterested. Better to let the Americans think their secret is safe. Better to keep the spies hidden for as long as possible. That night, Stalin meets with Vyacheslav Molotov, his foreign minister, in the Soviet quarters. Molotov asks if the Americans said anything important today. Stalin smiles. It is not a warm smile. Truman thinks he told me a secret. He does not know we have been reading his mail for 2 years. But Stalin also understands the strategic problem. America has atomic bombs now. The Soviet Union has blueprints and 3 years of work ahead. In the immediate future, America can destroy Soviet cities and the Soviet Union cannot retaliate. That makes every negotiation unequal. Truman holds an atomic gun. Stalin holds nothing, unless Stalin moves quickly. The Potsdam Conference is Stalin's last chance to extract maximum concessions before the atomic bomb makes Soviet military power irrelevant. Soviet armies occupy Eastern Europe. 2 million Red Army soldiers control Poland, Romania, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, Bulgaria. Truman can threaten atomic destruction, but he will not use it over governments in countries most Americans cannot find on a map. Stalin's strategy becomes clear. Consolidate control over Eastern Europe immediately. Install communist governments. Eliminate opposition. Create facts on the ground that America cannot reverse without starting World War III. Do it all in the next few weeks before Japan surrenders and American attention shifts to post-war politics. The Potsdam Conference drags through late July. Stalin becomes more aggressive in every session. He demands recognition of Soviet-controlled governments in Poland and Romania. He insists on massive reparations from Germany's western zones. He rejects any proposal for free elections in Eastern Europe. Churchill protests. These governments are puppets. You are creating a Soviet empire. Stalin responds calmly. We lost 20 million people defeating Germany. We are entitled to security on our borders. Security means friendly governments. Friendly means communist. Truman pushes back but discovers he has limited leverage. He can threaten to withhold economic aid. He can refuse to recognize Soviet-controlled governments. But he cannot actually remove Soviet armies from Eastern Europe without invading. And America just spent 4 years fighting Germany. The public wants soldiers home, not deployed to fight the Soviets. On July 26th, America, Britain and China issue the Potsdam Declaration. It is an ultimatum to Japan. Surrender unconditionally or face prompt and utter destruction. The declaration does not mention atomic bombs. It does not need to. Japan must surrender completely or be annihilated. Stalin is not a signatory. The Soviet Union is still neutral in the Pacific War. The Non-Aggression Pact with Japan does not expire until April 1946. Stalin watches America issue its ultimatum and calculates his next move. If Japan surrenders immediately after the atomic bombs, Stalin gains nothing in the Pacific. No territorial concessions, no occupation zones, no influence over post-war Japan. But if Stalin declares war on Japan the moment the first bomb drops, Soviet armies can invade Manchuria, Korea, and possibly Hokkaido before Japan surrenders. Then Stalin can demand a seat at the table when surrender terms are negotiated. Stalin makes his decision. The moment America uses the atomic bomb, the Soviet Union will declare war on Japan. Not 3 months after Germany's surrender as promised at Yalta. Immediately. Soviet forces are already massing on the Manchurian border. 1,500,000 soldiers, 5,000 tanks, over 3,000 aircraft. The largest army ever assembled for a single operation. They are waiting for Stalin's order. Truman leaves Potsdam on August 2nd without resolving the fundamental disagreements. Stalin will dominate Eastern Europe. America cannot stop him without another war. The alliance that defeated Hitler is fracturing before the victory celebrations end. As Truman boards his plane, he carries with him the knowledge that atomic bombs are loaded on Tinian Island in the Pacific. Weather permitting, the first bomb will drop on Hiroshima within days. Truman authorized the attacks before leaving for Potsdam. The order is simple. Use the bombs as soon as ready after August 3rd. Target selection is delegated to military commanders. Hiroshima, Kokura, Niigata, Nagasaki. Pick based on weather. The decision weighs on Truman more than anyone knows. He is about to kill 100,000 people, maybe more, in a single flash. Civilians, women, children, elderly. All of them will die because Japan's military government refuses to surrender. Some advisors suggested a demonstration strike on an uninhabited area, show Japan the power and give them a chance to surrender before using it on cities. But the military rejected this. America only has 2 bombs. Wasting one on a demonstration is unacceptable, and if the bomb fails to detonate, American credibility is destroyed. Truman decides the bomb is justified. An invasion will kill far more people on both sides. Japanese civilians are already dying by the thousands in conventional bombing raids. Tokyo burned in March with 100,000 dead from incendiary bombs. The atomic bomb is just more efficient. 1 plane, 1 bomb, 1 city. The shock might force surrender and save millions of lives in the long run. But Truman also knows the bomb's real purpose: ending the war before Soviet armies invade Japan, demonstrating American power to Stalin, establishing that the post-war world will be shaped by nations with atomic weapons. Everything else is secondary. On August 4th, Truman is aboard the USS Augusta, crossing the Atlantic. He does not know that in 2 days the world will split into before and after. He does not know that Stalin has already issued secret orders to Soviet commanders in the Far East. He does not know that the Cold War is about to begin in atomic fire. What Truman does know is that he spent 2 weeks playing poker with a man who smiled when he should have been shocked. Stalin's lack of reaction haunts him. Any normal person hearing about a weapon that can destroy cities would ask questions, demand details, show some emotion. Stalin showed nothing. Churchill warned him before he left. Stalin is not like other men. He does not react. He calculates. Everything is a transaction. Every conversation is a negotiation. He never reveals what he knows or what he wants. You will never win at poker with Stalin because you will never know what cards he holds. Truman stares at the ocean from the deck of the Augusta and realizes Churchill is right. The meeting at Potsdam was not a negotiation between allies. It was the first battle of the next war. Stalin sat across the table with a smile and a secret. He knew about the atomic bomb. He knew about the spies. He knew about American production limitations. And he let Truman think he had the advantage. In 72 hours, a B-29 named Enola Gay will take off from Tinian Island. The world will learn what prompt and utter destruction means. Japan will face a choice between surrender and annihilation, and Joseph Stalin will make his move. The poker game at Potsdam is over. Truman played his atomic card, but Stalin was counting cards the entire time. Now both men are racing toward the same finish line. Truman wants to end the war before Stalin gains influence in the Pacific. Stalin wants to declare war before Japan surrenders. The winner gets to shape the post-war world. The loser watches from the sidelines. 72 hours. That is all the time remaining before Hiroshima burns and everything changes. The countdown has already begun. August 6th, 1945, 2:45 a.m., Tinian Island, Mariana Islands. Colonel Paul Tibbets climbs into the cockpit of a B-29 superfortress named Enola Gay after his mother. The bomber weighs 65 tons fully loaded. In the bomb bay sits Little Boy, a uranium gun type atomic bomb weighing 9,700 pounds. Tibbets has flown 66 combat missions. He has bombed Germany and Japan. He has seen cities burn. But nothing in his experience prepared him for this. 1 bomb, 1 city, 1 flash that will kill more people than every mission he ever flew combined. The crew knows what they are carrying. They were briefed 3 days ago. Captain Robert Lewis, the co-pilot, wrote in his journal last night, "We are about to drop the most terrible weapon ever created. I am not sure how I feel about it." Lewis is 26 years old. In 6 hours, he will help kill 80,000 people before breakfast. Enola Gay takes off at 2:45 a.m. 2 observation planes follow. One carries scientific instruments to measure the blast. The other carries cameras to document the destruction. All three bombers climb to 30,000 feet and turn toward Japan. Flight time to Hiroshima is 6 hours. Tibbets keeps the bomber on autopilot and thinks about what happens next. If the bomb works, the war might end in days. If it fails, the invasion proceeds and hundreds of thousands die over the next year. Everything depends on a weapon that has only been tested once. While Enola Gay flies northwest across the Pacific, Joseph Stalin sits in his Kremlin office, reading intelligence reports. It is 7:15 p.m., Moscow time, 7 hours ahead of Tinian. Soviet agents in the Pacific have reported unusual B-29 activity. 3 bombers departed Tinian on a heading towards southern Japan. Not part of any scheduled raid. Special mission. High security. Stalin knows what this means. The Americans are using the bomb today, maybe within hours. He reaches for the telephone and calls General Alexander Vasilevsky, commander of Soviet forces in the Far East. The Americans are attacking Japan with their new weapon, possibly today. Execute the operation immediately when you receive confirmation. Do not wait for the original timeline. I want Soviet forces across the Manchurian border within 72 hours of the American attack. Vasilevsky acknowledges the order. The Soviet invasion plan has been ready since July. 1.5 million soldiers, 5,000 tanks, massive artillery concentrations. The Kwantung Army in Manchuria has 1 million soldiers, but they are undersupplied, undermanned, and isolated. Soviet forces will crush them in days. But timing is everything. If Japan surrenders before Soviet armies attack, Moscow gains nothing. Stalin needs confirmation that the atomic bomb was used. Then he needs 48 to 72 hours to invade before Japan collapses completely. August 6th, 8:09 a.m., Japan time, Hiroshima. The city is home to 350,000 people. Eizo Nomura, a 32-year-old photographer, wakes up in his apartment 2 miles from the city centre. He works for the local newspaper. This morning he plans to photograph a school ceremony. His camera bag sits by the door ready. He eats a small breakfast, rice and pickled vegetables. Food is rationed. Everyone is hungry. But Japan fights on. Akiko Takakura, a 20-year-old bank employee, arrives at work early. The Hiroshima bank is 300 yards from the Aioi Bridge in the city centre. She works in the basement handling documents. Her shift starts at 8 a.m. She descends the stairs into the cool basement and begins sorting papers. Above her, the morning shift fills the main floor. Customers, tellers, managers. Normal Monday morning business. Air raid sirens sounded earlier when reconnaissance planes flew over. People went to shelters. The all-clear sounded at 7:31 a.m. Most people return to their routines. Breakfast, commuting to work. Children walking to school. The sky is clear. Temperature is already climbing toward 80 degrees. Nobody sees the 3 B-29s at 31,000 feet. Enola Gay approaches Hiroshima at 31,000 feet. Bombardier Thomas Ferriby looks through his Norden bomb sight. Visibility is perfect. The Aioi Bridge is clearly visible. That distinctive T-shaped bridge in the centre of the city. Hard to miss. Ferriby makes final adjustments. At 8:15 a.m., he presses the release. Little boy drops from the bomb bay. The bomb falls for 43 seconds. At 1,900 feet above the city, the barometric triggers activate. The uranium projectile fires down the gun barrel into the uranium target. Critical mass is achieved. Nuclear fission begins. At 8:16 a.m., the center of Hiroshima turns into the sun. Akiko Takakura is in the basement when the flash comes. Even underground, she sees light brighter than anything imaginable. Then sound, not an explosion, a roar that seems to come from everywhere at once. The building shakes. Concrete dust fills the air. She drops to the floor and covers her head. Something massive just fell on the city above her. Eizo Nomura is 2 miles away when he sees the flash. He is standing on his balcony checking his camera. The sky lights up. He raises his hand instinctively to shield his eyes. Then the shockwave arrives. Windows explode inward. Glass shreds his apartment. He falls backward into his room. His ears ring. He cannot hear. He stands up slowly and looks outside. A mushroom cloud is rising over the city centre, massive, towering, climbing miles into the sky. And beneath it, Hiroshima is burning. The fireball expanded to 1,200 feet in diameter within 1 second. Temperature at ground zero reached 7,000 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to vaporize human bodies. People within 1,000 yards of ground zero were instantly incinerated. Their shadows burned into concrete and stone, permanent marks where they stood when the light arrived. A man sitting on the steps of the Sumitomo Bank, a woman pushing a cart, a child holding a mother's hand. All of them reduced to shadows on the pavement. Everything within half a mile ignited simultaneously. Wood, paper, cloth, hair, skin. The entire city centre became a firestorm. The shockwave followed milliseconds later, radiating outward at 1,000 feet per second. Buildings collapsed. Windows exploded. Thousands of people were crushed under falling debris or impaled by flying glass. The blast wave reflected off the ground and created a second wave of destruction. People who survived the initial flash were killed by the shockwave. Those who survived the shockwave died in the fires that followed. Enola Gay is 11 miles away when the bomb detonates. The shockwave still hits the plane hard enough to shake the instruments. Tibbets fights to maintain control. Co-pilot. Lewis looks back at Hiroshima and sees the mushroom cloud rising. He writes in his journal, "My God, what have we done?" Tail gunner Bob Caron has the clearest view. He watches the city disappear beneath smoke and fire. A bubbling mass of purple-grey smoke, red flames shooting through it. The city is completely obscured. I can see fires springing up on the edges. It looks like lava covering the whole city. Akiko Takakura climbs the stairs from the basement. The bank above her is gone. Not damaged, gone. The roof collapsed. The walls fell outward. Bodies are everywhere. She recognizes some of them. The manager who said good morning 16 minutes ago. The teller who worked at the next desk. They are burned beyond recognition. Their skin is black and peeling. Some are still moving. They reach toward her. They cannot speak. Their mouths are burned shut. She walks into the street. Hiroshima does not exist anymore. Every building she can see is destroyed or burning. People stumble past her. They walk silently toward the outskirts of the city. They are bleeding. Their faces are burnt and swollen. Their clothes are burned onto their skin. They look like ghosts with dead eyes. A woman walks past carrying something. Akiko realizes it is a child. The child is not moving. The woman keeps walking as if she does not know. Eizo Nomura grabs his camera and runs toward the city centre. He is a photographer. He needs to document this. He gets within half a mile before he cannot continue. The heat is too intense. The smoke is too thick. He takes photographs from the edge of the destruction. Burning buildings. Bodies in the streets. Survivors walking past him like they are already dead. Later, his photographs will be some of the first images the world sees of atomic destruction. But right now, he just keeps shooting because he does not know what else to do. In Washington, D.C., it is 7:16 p.m. on August 5th when the news arrives. The atomic bomb was successfully dropped on Hiroshima. Extent of damage still being assessed, Truman is aboard the USS Augusta in the mid-Atlantic. He receives the coded message at 11 a.m. ship time on August 6th. He reads it twice. Then he stands up and announces to the officers around him, This is the greatest thing in history. Truman immediately authorizes a public statement. 16 hours ago, an American airplane dropped one bomb on Hiroshima. It is an atomic bomb. It is a harnessing of the basic power of the universe. If Japan does not now accept our terms, they may expect a rain of ruin from the air, the like of which has never been seen on this earth. The statement is broadcast globally. Radio stations interrupt regular programming. Newspapers prepare special editions. The world learns that a new weapon exists. One bomb destroyed an entire city. America possesses multiple bombs. Japan must surrender immediately or face complete annihilation. In Hiroshima, approximately 70,000 people died instantly. Another 70,000 were injured, many fatally. Radiation sickness will kill thousands more over the next weeks and months. The final death toll will exceed 140,000. 90% of the city's buildings are destroyed or severely damaged. Hospitals are gone. Fire stations are gone. Government offices are gone. The city has effectively ceased to exist. Dr. Michihiko Hachiya runs the Hiroshima Communications Hospital. He was injured in the blast, but survived. His diary entry for August 6th describes the aftermath. Those who were able walked silently toward the outskirts of the city. They were bleeding. Their faces were burnt and swollen. They looked like ghosts with dead eyes. I felt sick in my stomach. In Tokyo, the Japanese government receives initial reports. One bomb destroyed Hiroshima. Casualties in the tens of thousands. Communications with the city are severed. The military high command cannot believe one bomb caused this much damage. They suspect multiple conventional bombs or exaggerated reports. They order reconnaissance flights to assess the situation. August 7th, morning, Japanese reconnaissance planes fly over Hiroshima. The pilots radio back in disbelief. The city is gone, completely gone. Nothing remains but ruins and fires. One bomb could not do this. But the evidence is undeniable. A single flash, a single explosion. And Hiroshima ceased to exist. The reports reach Tokyo by noon. The government is paralyzed. War Minister Korechika Anami reads the reconnaissance reports and refuses to accept them. Japan has never surrendered in its 2,600-year history. One bomb does not change that. Japan still has 4 million soldiers. The civilian population is mobilized for defense. Let the Americans invade. Every Japanese will fight to the death. Surrender is unacceptable. Anami tells the cabinet that Japan must continue fighting. But Emperor Hirohito sees the casualty reports and understands. America can destroy Japanese cities one by one without losing a single soldier. The war is lost. Continuing only guarantees more death. On August 8th, Hirohito tells his advisers he is considering surrender. Anami and the military leadership are furious. They begin quietly discussing a coup. If the emperor orders surrender, the military will prevent it. They will imprison the emperor if necessary. Japan will fight on. While Japan debates, Stalin moves. August 9th, 12:01 a.m., Moscow time. Soviet Foreign Minister Molotov summons Japanese Ambassador Naotake Sato to the Kremlin. Molotov reads a prepared statement. The Soviet Union declares war on Japan effective immediately. Soviet forces will commence military operations to assist in ending the war quickly. Sato is stunned. The Neutrality Pact does not expire until 1946. This is a violation of international agreements. Molotov responds coldly. Japan asked the Soviet Union to mediate peace with America. We cannot mediate and remain neutral. We have chosen to enter the war. The meeting lasts 8 minutes. 1 hour later, Soviet artillery opens fire along the entire Manchurian border. Lieutenant Yuri Petrov commands a battery of 152mm howitzers in the Trans-Baikal front. He has been waiting for this order since July. Fire for effect. all guns. 30 minutes continuous bombardment. Petrov watches as over 5,000 Soviet guns fire simultaneously along a 3,000-mile front. The sound is like continuous thunder. The horizon lights up with muzzle flashes. Japanese positions disappear under high explosive shells. When the barrage lifts, Soviet tanks roll forward. 3 fronts attack simultaneously. The Trans-Baikal Front from the west. The First Far Eastern Front from the east. The Second Far Eastern Front from the north. Japanese forces are outnumbered 3-1 in most sectors. They fight desperately, but they are overwhelmed. Soviet tanks advance 50 miles in the first day. Japanese units that try to retreat find Soviet armor already behind them. Entire divisions are encircled and destroyed. Colonel Takeo Nakamura commands a Japanese infantry regiment defending a position near the Manchurian border. He watches Soviet tanks approach at dawn on August 9th. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands. His regiment has no anti-tank weapons. His artillery was destroyed in the bombardment. His men have rifles and machine guns against T-34 tanks. He orders his soldiers to dig in and fight. They will die, but they will die as soldiers. The Soviet tanks reach his position at 9 a.m. By 10 a.m., his regiment no longer exists. August 9th, 11:01 a.m. Japan time, 6 hours after the Soviet invasion begins. Major Charles Sweeney pilots a B-29 named Boxcar toward Kokura, the primary target for the second atomic bomb. Fat Man sits in the bomb bay, a plutonium implosion device, more powerful than the Hiroshima bomb. Yield estimated at 21 kilotons. Boxcar reaches Kokura at 10:44 a.m. Bombardier Kermit Bahan looks through the bomb site and sees nothing but smoke. Fires from earlier conventional bombing raids obscure the entire city. He cannot see the aiming point. Sweeney makes another pass. Still no visibility. Another pass. Nothing. They have been over the target for 45 minutes. Fuel is running low. Japanese fighters are scrambling. They need to drop the bomb or abort. Sweeney makes the call. Secondary target, Nagasaki. Boxcar turns southwest and flies toward the backup target. The crew is tense. They have one bomb and just enough fuel to reach Nagasaki and return to base. If they cannot drop on Nagasaki, they will have to ditch the bomb in the ocean. $2 billion and one city full of people rests on whether they can see the target through cloud cover. At 11:01 a.m., Boxcar approaches Nagasaki. The city is obscured by clouds. Bahan stares through the bomb site and sees nothing. Sweeney prepares to abort. Then a gap opens in the clouds. Bahan sees the stadium, the aiming point, 30 seconds of visibility. He presses the release. Fat Man detonates at 11:02 a.m., 1,650 feet above the Urakami Valley in Nagasaki. The plutonium core implodes. Nuclear fission begins. The fireball expands to 1,000 feet in diameter. Temperature reaches 7,000 degrees. But Nagasaki's hilly terrain channels the blast. Valleys contain the shockwave. Hills block the heat. The destruction is catastrophic, but more localized than Hiroshima. Approximately 40,000 people die instantly. Another 35,000 are injured. The final death toll will reach 75,000, lower than Hiroshima, but still a city destroyed in 1 second. The Mitsubishi Steel Works are obliterated. The Mitsubishi Arms Plant is gone. Residential neighborhoods are flattened. Fires spread through the ruins. Japan now faces 2 catastrophes simultaneously. 2 atomic bombs in 3 days. Soviet invasion from the north. The military situation is hopeless. The Americans can destroy 1 city per week indefinitely. The Soviets are advancing 50 miles per day through Manchuria. There is no scenario where Japan wins. There is no scenario where Japan survives intact. The only question is how many more people die before surrender. August 10th, 2 a.m. Emperor Hirohito convenes an emergency meeting of the Supreme War Council in an underground bunker beneath the Imperial Palace. Prime Minister Kantaro Suzuki. War Minister Anami. Foreign Minister Shigenori Togo. Navy Minister Mitsumasa Yonai. Army Chief of Staff Yoshijiro Umezu. Navy Chief of Staff Suemu Toyoda. The 6 men who will decide Japan's fate. The council is deadlocked. 3 vote to surrender. 3 vote to continue fighting. Anami argues that Japan can still make an invasion so costly that America will negotiate peace terms. Yonai counters that 2 atomic bombs and a Soviet invasion mean there will be no invasion. America will just keep dropping bombs until Japan is uninhabitable. After 2 hours of debate, Hirohito speaks. The emperor rarely intervenes in government decisions. But this is not a normal decision. I have listened to your arguments. I have considered the situation carefully. We must end the war. We must bear the unbearable. I will make a recording to broadcast to the nation. Japan will surrender. The decision is unprecedented. The emperor has never directly ordered government policy. His word is supposed to be guidance, not command. But Hirohito understands that if he does not act, the military will keep fighting until Japan is destroyed completely. The recording is scheduled for August 15th. War Minister Anami leaves the meeting in shock. Surrender is impossible. It is against everything he believes. Against Bushido. Against Japanese tradition. Against his oath as a soldier. That night, he gathers loyalist officers and discusses options. If the emperor orders surrender, can they prevent it? Can they seize the imperial recording before it is broadcast? Can they stage a coup and continue the war under military government? The plan forms quickly. August 14th to 15th overnight. A small group of officers will enter the imperial palace, find the recording and destroy it. Without the recording, the surrender cannot be announced. The coup attempt is code-named the Kyujo Incident. It will fail. Palace guards will stop the conspirators. But on August 10th, the plotters believe they can save Japan from the dishonor of surrender. While Japan descends into internal chaos, Stalin watches the map in his Kremlin office. Soviet forces have been fighting for 48 hours. They have advanced 200 miles into Manchuria. They control key cities and transportation hubs. They are positioning forces to occupy Korea, southern Sakhalin, and the Kuril Islands. Beria stands beside Stalin reviewing the reports. We have occupied more territory in 2 days than Japan controlled for 40 years, Beria says. Stalin nods. Truman thought his bomb would make us irrelevant. Instead, it gave us 72 hours to grab half the Pacific. The Americans ended the war before we could be stopped, but not before we positioned ourselves for the peace. August 14th, Japan accepts the Potsdam Declaration. Japan will surrender. The emperor remains, but under Allied authority. August 15th, Hirohito's recorded message is broadcast at noon. His voice is thin and strained. He speaks in formal classical Japanese that most citizens barely understand. But the message is clear. Japan has lost. The war is over. Millions of Japanese hear their emperor's voice for the first time and learn that everything they sacrificed was for nothing. Soviet forces continue advancing after Japan's surrender. They do not stop on August 15th. They occupy southern Sakhalin through August 25th. They invade the Kuril Islands through September 5th. Stalin ordered his commanders to grab as much territory as possible before America enforces the ceasefire. By the time Soviet operations end, they control everything they targeted. The peace settlement reflects this reality. Korea is divided at the 38th parallel. Soviet occupation in the north, American occupation in the south. The division is supposed to be temporary. It will become permanent. 2 Koreas, 1 communist, 1 capitalist. The Kuril Islands go to the Soviet Union. Southern Sakhalin goes to the Soviet Union. Manchuria is occupied by Soviet forces until 1946, then turned over to Chinese communists. Truman realizes too late what happened. He used the atomic bomb to end the war quickly and keep Stalin out of the Pacific. Instead, Stalin used the atomic bomb as a starting gun to grab territory before Japan could surrender. The bomb did not prevent Soviet expansion. It triggered it. In Los Alamos, Robert Oppenheimer reads the casualty reports from Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Over 200,000 dead. His equations, his physics, his bomb. He helped create the weapon that killed them. Some scientists celebrate. We saved American lives. We ended the war. Others are horrified. We killed civilians, women and children. Oppenheimer feels both emotions simultaneously. He is proud of the science. He is sickened by the result. In Moscow, Stalin meets with Beria on August 16th. The war is over. America used 2 atomic bombs. Soviet forces occupy strategic territory in the Far East. Now the real work begins. Beria, how long until we test our own bomb? Beria has updated his estimate. With everything we obtain from American sources and the additional data from observing Hiroshima and Nagasaki, 3 years. Possibly less if Klaus Fuchs continues providing information. Stalin nods. 3 years. That is how long America's monopoly lasts. 3 years until we break it. 3 years until the balance shifts. The Americans think they won. They dropped 2 bombs and Japan surrendered. They do not understand what actually happened. We turned their weapon into our opportunity. They ended the war. We grabbed the future. Klaus Fuchs is still at Los Alamos, still working on bomb designs. Still photographing documents, still passing secrets to Soviet handlers. The Americans do not know. They will not discover him until 1950. 5 more years of stolen information. 5 more years of Soviet intelligence collecting every American atomic secret. Stalin's spies will deliver the plutonium bomb design, the hydrogen bomb theory, and production techniques for fissile material. Everything America develops, Moscow will receive within months. August 29th, 1949, 4 years and 23 days after Hiroshima. The Soviet Union detonates its first atomic bomb at the Semipalatinsk test site in Kazakhstan. Yield 22 kilotons, nearly identical to the American Trinity test. The design is copied almost exactly from Klaus Fuchs's stolen documents. American intelligence is shocked. They estimated the Soviets needed at least 10 years to develop a bomb. The monopoly lasted 4 years. The Cold War just became a nuclear standoff. Truman receives the news and understands he has been outplayed. Stalin sat at Potsdam with no reaction to the atomic bomb because he already knew about it. Stalin declared war on Japan the moment Hiroshima burned because he saw opportunity, not deterrence. Stalin stole atomic secrets for 4 years, while America assumed its technology was secure. The poker game never ended. Stalin just kept playing while Truman thought he had already won. The 72 hours between Hiroshima and Japan's surrender determined the shape of the post-war world. Soviet occupation of Manchuria led to communist victory in China's Civil War. Soviet occupation of North Korea led to the Korean War. Soviet acquisition of atomic secrets led to the arms race. All of it traces back to August 6th through 9th, 1945. 72 hours when 2 superpowers raced to control the future. America dropped the bomb. Stalin grabbed the territory. And the Cold War began in the ruins of 2 Japanese cities that died so the world could learn what atomic weapons actually meant. Chapter 3. The Spies Who Stole Armageddon, August 15th, 1945. 11:47 p.m. The Kremlin, Moscow. Lavrenti Beria walks into Stalin's office carrying a leather folder and a map of the Far East. Stalin sits behind his desk smoking his pipe. He looks relaxed, almost pleased. Japan surrendered 7 hours ago. The war is over. But for Stalin, the work is just beginning. Beria spreads the map across the desk. Red lines mark Soviet advances. In 6 days, Soviet forces captured territory Japan held for 40 years. Southern Sakhalin, the Kuril Islands, the northern half of Korea. Key positions in Manchuria. Beria points to each location. Our forces are in position. Japan surrendered before they could contest these occupations. The Americans cannot remove us without starting another war. Stalin studies the map and nods. Truman thought his bomb would keep us out of the Pacific. Instead, it gave us exactly 72 hours to take what we needed. The Americans ended the war too quickly to stop us. He taps the map at the 38th parallel in Korea. This line divides Korea temporarily. Make sure it becomes permanent. Install our government in the north. Do not allow elections that might unify the country under American influence. Beria understands. Korea will be split. The division that was supposed to be temporary will last indefinitely. In 5 years, it will lead to war. But tonight, Stalin is focused on the larger picture. He looks at Beria and asks the question that matters most. Our atomic program. How long until we test? Beria has prepared for this. With the intelligence we have received from our sources in America, 3 years. Possibly less. Klaus Fuchs has provided complete specifications for the plutonium implosion design. We have detailed information about the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombs. Our scientists are studying the data now. 3 years, Stalin repeats. The Americans think they have a monopoly for at least a decade. We will surprise them. He closes the folder. Spare no expense. Use whatever resources necessary, build the facilities, produce the plutonium, test the weapon. If you succeed, the Soviet Union becomes equal to America. If you fail, we remain subordinate forever. The choice is clear. Beria leaves Stalin's office at midnight, knowing his life depends on success. 3 years to build an atomic bomb from stolen plans. 3 years to break America's nuclear monopoly. 3 years to change the balance of power. The race is already underway, and the Americans do not even know they are in it. Los Alamos, New Mexico. September 1945. Klaus Fuchs sits in his small apartment reviewing calculations. He is 34 years old, a German communist who fled the Nazis in 1933. He joined the British atomic program in 1941. He was sent to Los Alamos in 1944 as part of the British scientific delegation. He had access to nearly every aspect of the Manhattan Project, and he has been passing secrets to Soviet intelligence since 1942. Fuchs does not think of himself as a traitor. He thinks of himself as a man ensuring balance. The Americans should not have a monopoly on atomic weapons. The Soviets deserve the same technology. He is not helping the enemy. He is preventing one nation from dominating the world. This is how he justifies photographing classified documents and meeting with Soviet handlers in back alleys and empty parking lots. His most recent meeting was in June 1945. He provided detailed specifications for the Trinity test. He described the plutonium implosion design. He gave his handler everything the Soviets needed to build their own bomb. Now he is preparing to leave Los Alamos and return to Britain. His work at Los Alamos is finished, but his work for Soviet intelligence continues. Fuchs does not know that American and British counterintelligence are beginning to suspect him. Decrypted Soviet cables mention a source code named Charles who provided atomic secrets. The descriptions match Fuchs. But in September 1945, the investigation is preliminary. Fuchs is still trusted, still employed, still free. He will pass secrets for 4 more years before they arrest him. Chelyabinsk Oblast, Soviet Union, 1946. Deep in the Ural Mountains, the Soviet Union is building a secret city. It does not appear on any map. It has no official name. Workers call it Chelyabinsk 40, or simply the installation. Eventually, it will be known as Ozersk, but in 1946, it is just a construction site surrounded by barbed wire and guard towers. Over 70,000 people work at Chelyabinsk 40. Most are prisoners, gulag labourers building plutonium production reactors in conditions that kill thousands. They dig foundations in frozen ground. They pour concrete in sub-zero temperatures. They work 14-hour shifts with minimal food and no safety equipment. Radiation exposure is not mentioned. Workers who get sick are replaced. The Soviet Union has unlimited labour. It does not have unlimited time. Igor Kurchatov oversees the scientific program. He is 43 years old, a physicist who understands nuclear fission but has never built a bomb. He relies completely on intelligence from Los Alamos. The stolen plans show him exactly what to build. He does not need to experiment. He does not need to innovate. He just needs to copy American designs precisely. Kurchatov reviews the documents Fuchs provided and marvels at their detail. Dimensions of the plutonium core, configuration of explosive lenses, timing mechanisms for detonators. Everything is specified. The Americans spent $2 billion and 3 years developing this weapon. The Soviets will replicate it for a fraction of the cost using stolen blueprints. It is the greatest intelligence coup in history. But Kurchatov also understands the pressure. Beria visits the site regularly. He reminds everyone that failure means execution. Stalin does not accept excuses. The reactor must produce plutonium on schedule. The bomb must be tested by 1949. Anything less is treason. Kurchatov works 18-hour days knowing that success might save his life, and failure will definitely end it. Washington, D.C., 1947. President Truman sits in the Oval Office reading intelligence reports about Soviet activities in Eastern Europe. Communist governments control Poland, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, Czechoslovakia, and East Germany. The Iron Curtain Churchill warned about is now concrete. Elections are rigged. Opposition leaders are arrested. Soviet military forces occupy every capital. The wartime alliance is completely dead. Truman authorized the Truman Doctrine in March 1947. America will support free peoples resisting subjugation by armed minorities or outside pressure. It is a commitment to contain Soviet expansion. But containment assumes America has leverage. The primary leverage is atomic weapons. The United States has over 50 bombs by 1947. The Soviet Union has 0. That imbalance makes deterrence possible. But the intelligence reports also include troubling information. The Soviets are building something in the Urals. Satellite reconnaissance shows large construction projects. Prisoners are being shipped to remote sites. American analysts suspect atomic weapons development. But the estimates say the Soviets need at least 10 more years, maybe 15. The technology is too complex. The industrial base is too damaged from the war. Stalin cannot catch up quickly. Truman believes these estimates. He has to. If the Soviets get the bomb in the next few years, American strategy collapses. Containment depends on nuclear superiority. Without it, the Red Army's conventional advantage becomes decisive. So Truman approves policies based on the assumption of a long American monopoly. He does not know that assumption is wrong. He does not know that Klaus Fuchs already gave the Soviets everything they need. London, England, February 3rd, 1950, 7:15 a.m. MY5 officers knock on the door of Klaus Fuchs's modest home in Harwell. He opens the door, already dressed. He looks at the officers and says calmly, "I have been expecting you." They take him to an interrogation room. No threats, No violence. Just questions. How long have you been passing secrets? Since 1942. What did you provide? Everything I had access to. The plutonium bomb design, Trinity test specifications, production data, targeting information. Why did you do it? Fuchs pauses before answering. I believe the Soviet Union deserved to have the same information as America. One nation should not have a monopoly on such a powerful weapon. It creates imbalance. I was restoring balance. The interrogator asks the question that haunts the intelligence services. Who else is involved? Are there other spies? Fuchs provides names. Harry Gold, his American contact. David Greenglass, a machinist at Los Alamos. The investigation will expand from there. Julius and Ethel Rosenberg. Theodore Hall, a network of Soviet agents who penetrated the Manhattan Project at multiple levels. The Americans built the atomic bomb with Soviet spies watching every step. Fuchs is sentenced to 14 years in prison. He will serve 9 years and be released in 1959. He will move to East Germany and work on their nuclear program. He will receive the Order of Karl Marx from the communist government. He will live to age 76 and die in 1988 without ever expressing regret. To the end, he believes he did the right thing. Semipalatinsk, Kazakhstan. August 29, 1949, 7 a.m. local time. Igor Kurchatov stands in a concrete bunker 6 miles from ground zero. He has not slept in 36 hours. The bomb sits on a tower 100 feet tall. It is code-named First Lightning. The design is an exact copy of the American Fat Man device. Even the dimensions are identical. Soviet engineers replicated every detail, including manufacturing flaws they did not understand. If the Americans built it that way, the Soviets copied it that way. Kurchatov's hands shake as the countdown begins. 3 years of work. Thousands of people dead building the plutonium reactors. Unlimited resources poured into this moment. If the bomb fails, Beria is waiting with execution orders. If it succeeds, the Soviet Union joins the nuclear club. Everything depends on whether stolen American designs work when replicated in Soviet factories. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The flash is visible 400 miles away. The fireball expands to 1,000 feet in diameter. The mushroom cloud rises 40,000 feet into the atmosphere. Yield is measured at 22 kilotons, nearly identical to the Trinity test. The bomb worked. The Soviet Union is now a nuclear power. Kurchatov falls to his knees and weeps. Not from joy, from relief. He will not be executed. His family will not be sent to camps. He survived. Around him, scientists and military officers celebrate. They succeeded. They built the bomb in 4 years. They proved Soviet science could match American science. They do not know their success was entirely based on espionage. They believe they earned this through Soviet ingenuity. Beria calls Stalin from the test site. Comrade Secretary General, the test was successful. Stalin's response is cold. Good. Now build 10 more. The conversation lasts 30 seconds. Washington, D.C., September 23, 1949, 3:14 a.m. President Truman is asleep when the phone rings. It is Admiral Sidney Sowers. Mr. President, we have detected evidence of a Soviet atomic explosion. An Air Force weather reconnaissance plane picked up radioactive isotopes over the Pacific. Analysis confirms plutonium fission. The Soviets tested a bomb, probably in late August. Truman sits in the dark for 20 minutes processing this. 4 years. American intelligence estimated 10 to 15 years. The monopoly is over. Every assumption about containment, about deterrence, about American strategy is now obsolete. Soviet cities are invulnerable. American cities are now vulnerable. The balance just shifted. Truman calls an emergency meeting for 10 a.m. He wants answers. How did this happen? How did they build a bomb so fast? The meeting reveals the truth slowly. Espionage. Soviet spies inside the Manhattan Project. Klaus Fuchs, Harry Gold, David Greenglass. A network of agents providing classified information for years. The Americans built the bomb. The Soviets stole it. And nobody knew until it was too late. Secretary of Defense Louis Johnson argues for immediate action. We should destroy Soviet nuclear facilities now while we still have numerical superiority. We have 200 bombs. They have maybe 5. In 10 years, they might have 500. Strike now or lose the advantage forever. Secretary of State Dean Acheson responds with horror. You are proposing World War III, attacking a nation we are not at war with, killing millions of Soviet civilians, starting a nuclear war. The proposal is insane. Truman listens to both arguments and makes no decision. He knows preventive war is politically impossible. But he also knows the strategic situation just collapsed. Deterrence only works with balance of terror. Right now, America is still stronger. In 10 years, that might not be true. The meeting ends without consensus. But one decision is made. The United States will develop the hydrogen bomb, a fusion weapon thousands of times more powerful than fission bombs. If the Soviets have atomic weapons, America will leap ahead to thermonuclear weapons. The arms race is officially beginning. Korea, June 25, 1950. 4 a.m. North Korean forces cross the 38th parallel in a massive invasion. Over 135,000 soldiers supported by Soviet tanks and artillery. They overwhelm South Korean defences in hours. Seoul falls in 3 days. The Korean War begins exactly 5 years after Stalin and Truman divided Korea at Potsdam. The war will last 3 years. American forces will fight Chinese and North Korean armies equipped with Soviet weapons. Over 36,000 American soldiers will die. Over 3 million Korean civilians will be killed. The 38th Parallel Division that was supposed to be temporary will become permanent. 2 Koreas, 1 communist, 1 capitalist. Both armed, both hostile. The result of Stalin's 72-hour land grab in August 1945. General Douglas MacArthur commands American forces. He argues for bombing Chinese supply lines in Manchuria. He suggests using atomic weapons to end the war quickly. Truman refuses. Using nuclear weapons in Korea risks Soviet retaliation. The war must remain limited. MacArthur publicly criticizes this decision. Truman fires him in April 1951. The president who authorized atomic weapons against Japan refuses to use them in Korea. The world has changed. The bomb is no longer a weapon of last resort. It is a weapon that cannot be used because both sides have it. The Korean War ends in armistice on July 27, 1953. No victory, no defeat, just a return to the status quo. The 38th parallel remains the border. Families remain divided. The war accomplished nothing except demonstrating that atomic weapons make total victory impossible. This is the world Truman and Stalin created. Permanent conflict, limited wars, proxy battles, nuclear stalemate, Enewetak Atoll, Marshall Islands. November 1, 1952. The United States detonates the first hydrogen bomb. Code name Ivy Mike. Yield 10.4 megatons, 500 times more powerful than Hiroshima. The fireball is 3 miles wide. The island of Elu Jalab vaporizes completely. Where there was land, now there is a crater 6,000 feet wide and 164 feet deep, filled with seawater. The mushroom cloud rises 25 miles into the stratosphere. Observers 30 miles away feel the heat on their faces. The shockwave circles the Earth 3 times. This is not a weapon of war. This is a weapon of extinction. 1 hydrogen bomb can destroy a city and irradiate hundreds of square miles. 10 hydrogen bombs can kill tens of millions. 100 can end civilization. Semipalatinsk, Kazakhstan. August 12, 1953. The Soviet Union detonates its first hydrogen bomb. Codename Joe 4. Yield 400 kilotons. Not as powerful as the American test, but deliverable by aircraft. The Soviets will test a true multi-megaton thermonuclear weapon on November 22, 1955. Yield 1.6 megatons. The arms race Oppenheimer warned about is now reality. Both superpowers have weapons that can destroy civilization. Mutual assured destruction is no longer theory. It is policy. Any nuclear war will end with both nations annihilated. American war planners develop targeting lists. Soviet war planners develop counter-targeting lists. Both sides build enough weapons to destroy each other several times over. The logic is insane, but inescapable. If deterrence requires the threat of total destruction, then both sides must build total destruction capability. Children practice duck and cover drills in schools, as if hiding under a desk will save them from a hydrogen bomb. Families build fallout shelters in their basements stocked with canned food and water. Civil defense officials distribute pamphlets explaining how to survive nuclear war. The instructions are useless. A direct hit means instant death. Near misses mean radiation sickness and slow death. But the pamphlets provide the illusion of control in a world where control no longer exists. December 26, 1972. Harry Truman dies in Kansas City, Missouri at age 88. He lived long enough to see the world he created: the Cold War, the arms race, Korea, Vietnam, the Cuban Missile Crisis, when the world came within hours of nuclear war. All of it traces back to August 1945. All of it flows from the decision to use the atomic bomb and the 72 hours that followed. Truman never apologized for Hiroshima and Nagasaki. He maintained until his death that using the bomb was justified. It saved American lives. It ended the war. It was necessary. But in private writings, he called the atomic bomb the most terrible thing ever discovered. He knew what he unleashed. He knew the world would never be the same. Joseph Stalin died on March 5, 1953, after a stroke. He was 74. His legacy is mass murder beyond comprehension. 20 million Soviet citizens dead in World War II. Millions more dead in purges and famines. But Stalin achieved his strategic goals. He turned the Soviet Union into a superpower. He acquired atomic weapons. He expanded Soviet territory and influence. He faced down the United States and survived. Stalin's greatest insight was understanding what Truman did not in July 1945. The atomic bomb was not a trump card. It was a starting gun. Truman thought the bomb would give America permanent advantage. Stalin understood it gave him 72 hours to grab territory and decades to steal the technology. Truman thought atomic weapons would make Soviet conventional forces irrelevant. Stalin made sure Soviet atomic weapons made American nuclear superiority temporary. Klaus Fuchs was released from British prison in 1959. He moved to East Germany and resumed work on nuclear weapons. He received honours from the communist government. He trained a new generation of physicists. He lived to age 76 and died in 1988. He never expressed regret. To the end, he believed he did the right thing by ensuring both superpowers had the bomb. Fuchs lived long enough to see the world he helped create. By 1988, the United States and Soviet Union possessed over 70,000 nuclear weapons between them, enough to destroy human civilization 20 times over. ICBMs in silos, submarine-launched missiles, bomber aircraft on 24-hour alert. Both nations perpetually seconds away from launching Armageddon. The cost of balancing the bomb was making extinction possible. Fuchs believed one nation should not have a monopoly on atomic weapons. He was right. But the result of breaking that monopoly was not peace. It was permanent terror. Two nations pointing weapons of mass destruction at each other for 45 years. waiting to see who would launch first, praying that deterrence would hold. August 6, 1945, the moment that changed everything. Hiroshima burned. Stalin ordered invasion. Nagasaki burned. Japan surrendered. Korea divided. Soviet spies kept stealing. America built more bombs. Soviets built more bombs. The race had no finish line because both sides were running toward mutual annihilation. Truman thought he was ending a war. He started the Cold War. Stalin thought he was expanding Soviet power. He created a standoff where neither side could win. Fuchs thought he was restoring balance. He enabled an arms race that nearly destroyed humanity multiple times. The 72 hours between Hiroshima and Japan's surrender were the hinge point. The moment when one war ended and another began. The moment when atomic weapons went from theoretical to real to mutual. The moment when two men racing to control the future set in motion events that would define the next half-century and bring the world repeatedly to the edge of extinction. No one won the race. Because the prize was a world where both superpowers had the power to end civilization. And they spent the next 45 years proving that the bomb that was supposed to make war obsolete instead made peace impossible. The weapon that was supposed to save lives instead made human extinction a permanent possibility. And it all started with 72 hours in August 1945, when Truman and Stalin raced each other toward a future where everyone lost.